Welcome to Changing the Game, where bold leaders, rule breakers, and trailblazers drop the playbook and share how they lead, win, and shake things up. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Joe Shattuck. Joe was a world-ranked racket sports professional athlete and coach, and now she is a neuroscientist who spent her career studying how people learn movement and how the brain adapts in motor skill performance. She started her sport later than most at age 17, which pushed her deeply to understand how people learn, not just how they perform. After peaking at world ranking of number 6 and coaching at a high level, Joe made the decision to walk away from her sport the moment her intuition told her it was time, and she gave herself space to grieve that chapter before building something new. Today, she's the founder of Panther Tec, makers of a body-worn sport tech training tool that uses real-time vibratory feedback and principles of neuroscience to help people understand their bodies, trust what they feel, and learn movement in a faster, more efficient way. Joe, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited you reached out. This is fantastic.
You're the first neuroscientist I've probably ever talked to in my entire life, let alone on the podcast. So,
well, I don't know if that's a good thing. We'll find out if that's a good thing or a bad thing, huh?
I think it just puts you in a different class than majority of us here. I mean, you have a brain that probably most people would never be able to comprehend.
No, stop. I always say that, and then my head will get this big and I won't be able to leave the room.
Okay, I won't talk you up too much. Okay. Then I'm just
right.
I am really excited to get into your experience because it is extremely cool, and I know I'm going to be learning right alongside all of our listeners here. Awesome. So I want to kick it off right away. I think it's really cool that you started your career in sports, in racket sports, at age 17, which is later from an elite athlete standpoint. So how did you find your way in the sport at such a young age?
Am I allowed to say that I was smoking weed behind the dumpster in the 9th grade?
Yeah, you're allowed to say whatever you want. That's the journey. And I love the honesty right away.
So that's what was happening. My mom, saw the writing on the wall. She's like, this is not a good path. So I swear she must have signed me up for like 20 different activities. Girl Scouts, that didn't last. Civil Air Patrol, that didn't last. A few other things. And certainly the academic things was nowhere on my radar. But racquetball was fast and aggressive and hard. And I was an angry teenager, and it just clicked right away. And so thanks, Mom, for helping me find that part. That's how I got started.
I absolutely love that. You're like, oh, I got in trouble and now I have to do something with my time. And it's funny that you said that academics really weren't the thing that stuck with you right away. That surprises me.
No, not at all. I kind of quit school in the 9th grade and I took the 9th grade off. I did go back and graduate, but in high school. But yeah, it was never my thing. I'm sure I have some neurodivergent ADHD, something that I don't know, my brain works in a different way. But I've got enough to skate by. Woohoo!
Yes. Yeah. Well, you clearly have enough, I'd say more than just skate by, but you started racket sports at 17. Then take us through that journey. How did you become world ranking number 6?
Right. So Hershey, Pennsylvania is where I played my first racquetball, the local club. And I had my Walmart racket, and I went down there and played a league, which I'm sure everybody hated playing with me because I just planted in the front and then just played reaction ball, which is like the worst thing you could do. It was the best. It was the most fun. I lost every game, like 1 or 2 points. I had the best time. And then a few months later, I graduated high school, went down to Louisiana Tech, where I got my bachelor's. It took me 7 years. That's part of the academic bumpiness of my road. And they had 12 courts. And so if you weren't drinking beer, you were playing racquetball. It was great. And I remember hitting in there by myself, and I'm like, I really like this. I wonder if I could make this a thing. So I went out in the hallway, and there weren't very many girls playing at the time. And I asked some of the fellows, I'm like, hey, are they like contests and stuff? And they all laughed at me because they're like, yeah, Joe, they're called tournaments. And that's like, because I've only ever done, track and basketball and never any racket sport before. So, they kind of rolled their eyes, and I'm like, I'm going to play a tournament. So 1989, I think it was. And I got my Walmart racket and my car. I played in a little town. I think it was Amite, Louisiana, in my first tournament. And I won the C division because probably there was nobody else in it. But anyway, I was like, this is amazing, and this is what I want to do, and that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. So you found the passion through just kind of stumbling into it, it sounds like. Was
Yeah, yeah, but think about it. So racquetball, it's hard, it's aggressive, it's intimate, it's four dimensions. It doesn't take much time. The time it takes to pick up a racket and walk in a court, and you can have some flow. And it was, I don't know, it just spoke to me at that time in my life to be able to have some control over something. It was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely gives you that like that focus probably that you were looking for at that time in your life, but you had a bit of a later start. So how did you approach the sport? Like were you like I love this, I want to become the best now, or was it something that kind of came
Yeah,
naturally to you?
naively, that's exactly what it was. Like, I want to be the best and I want to make a living at this. And I remember that exact moment. That's the moment right before I went out in the hallway and said, "Hey, is this a thing?" Now, at the time, there wasn't a professional women's racquetball tour. Kind of happenstance. It was about 5 years later before the USA national governing body decided to take on women's racquetball and have a 3-year grant to push it. And that's when I started playing pro tournaments. It was between we had, I don't know, 10 to 15 tournaments between August and May. So that was our season. The cool part was it's control, right? Like I hit the ball and it went exactly where I wanted it to go at the speed and the height and the spin and all that. I'm like, that's where I fell in love with that element of control, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that probably is a big piece of what you're doing now with Panther Tec, right? Like so I think the writing's probably on the wall with that. You eventually began coaching too. Did you start coaching while you were still playing the sport? Or was
I did, and a shout out to Gavry Mazeroff and Jim Winterton, and I'm a couple years in, and I got very, I don't want to say I got very good, but I won some things I shouldn't have won very soon, very early, because I was an athlete that played racquetball. And that's kind of what made me fall in love with the stroke technique of how good you can be just by controlling a few slight tweaks in your mechanics can make all the difference. So credit to those two, Winterton especially. He's like, yeah, I think you could be a pretty good coach. And I remember it was a tournament in Arizona, and somebody said that to me, and I was like, what? Wait, what? Me? And I spent after I got better at the craft and all that. I would travel around to an organization called AMPRO, and it was to certify other teachers how to teach racquetball. So little old me, right? I'm 100 pounds soaking wet, and I'm flying to Boise and Mexico and these places trying to teach these pros how to teach racquetball, and they're all men, of course. And
yeah.
so interestingly, I learned the thing to do is you find kind of the alpha male of the group or the best one, and you challenge them to a match. Most of the time I won, but even when I didn't, as soon as you had that sort of, there's no male and female, there's just competitor in the court. As soon as you had that, then the rest of the 3-day course went great.
I love that approach. I think that's awesome. I mean, because you really were on the forefront of growing the sport. Like you said, there was no professional women's racquetball
Mhm.
yet when you started. You were helping to grow the sport, going to these male-dominated spaces and
Uh-huh.
showing them like how you coach this sport. And oh, by the way, you better trust me because I'm also better than
Yeah, and
you.
yeah, that's true. It was, I mean, funny story. I think this was in Idaho where I could tell it was going to be a really hard group. And for whatever reason, I played spectacular in that match. And so, and even like as I was playing, I'm like, wow, there's no way I should be beating this guy, but I am. And so that was just a kind of a fun moment, um, just for whatever. Anyway,
Yeah. No, I love
um,
it. Joe, you like I feel like we got to get you bragging about yourself even more here. Like I feel like this is so cool your experience already. I mean, like the fact that you're like, "Hey, I'm not even shouldn't even be beating this guy." And
yeah,
here we are. Here we are beating them and then earning the trust of probably
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
that needed to learn from you.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. Thanks for kind of validating that story. And turns out along the pro tour too, I'm there's no money in racquetball, so during that first 3-year stint, there was a company that did live streaming of racquetball, and there was no commentator. So then I started commentating for about 5 straight years, like the last third of my career. When I wasn't playing, I would be commentating, live commentary when they were live streaming the tournaments. And that's still something they do now today. And in fact, shout out to Erica Mania. She's the pro at the Denver Athletic Club, which has my old job. I used to be the pro at the Denver Athletic Club. She invited me back to be a guest commentator at a pro stop that she had put on in December, and that was or October. That was really fun to get back in the behind the mic, so to speak.
It's very cool to hear your experience and how you almost like saw gaps in certain places. Like, how did you, like, there was no commentators. Did you just say like, hey, there's a need to have a commentator here? Or how did you land in space?
No, that's not me. I'll give all the credit to Angela Grissar, who's Chile's former #1 player, and Pablo, who also still streams the men's tour. And no, it's just, if you want to grow the sport, you have to explain it and teach it and make it fun. And honestly, I did it because I got a free hotel room and traveled with my friends. And so I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe there was a little flavor of because clearly I'm a really boring and passive person, not very outgoing and those kinds of things. So
I don't believe that for a second.
right. So I would always just jump up and down and just be so excited about the sport because it's so exciting. And I'd like to think that maybe helped attract some of the young girls and the women that are playing today.
Absolutely. I totally believe it. You created the culture, the atmosphere for others that you had around the sport too.
Yeah.
You paid it forward to them.
Yeah. At the tournament, because the current commentators are very like tennis, right? They're very passive. And after the first match or two, I went to the tournament director. I'm like, hey, can I do something different? Just like, yeah, do you. And so then the rest of the time I was like this, of course.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah. You brought your authentic flair into it,
Yeah.
which is so important.
Yeah.
When you were at the Denver Athletic Club, I remember in a previous conversation, you said that a lot of your training the first couple of days was about unlearning certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that so important to your coaching style?
Oh,
I guess.
Interesting. That's great. So the brain doesn't have any sense of what's correct or not correct, or I don't want to say efficient or inefficient, but it doesn't have any subjective judgment about how you should do something. There's a movement problem and you want to solve the movement problem. So humans interject what we think is a good form or a not good form or whatever based on our experience. Now, stay with me here. Everyone's body is subject to the same laws of gravity as everybody else. So that's not that there's one right way to do it, but there's a multitude of optimal ways based on your skill, your muscle makeup, your experience, what you've done before you did this sport, the length of your arm, the strength of all the things are ingredients in a recipe that makes you swing the best. Just call it swing the best, right?
Right.
So as a coach, your job is to figure out what those things are. And if you can control them, do that. You need to be stronger, go train. You need to have more endurance, work on that. My little slice was human movement. So when I trained players at the Denver Athletic Club, they would come in for 6 days in a row. We'd do 2 a days, and then they'd go back and train for a few months and come back. And the first couple of days, we'd have to unlearn what they did because they were practicing and wrong, in quotes, practicing less than optimal. So the brain doesn't know, oh, that's a bad one. I'm not going to remember that one. The brain just experiences things and then processes it, right? Am I making sense?
Totally.
Okay.
Yes, totally.
In my own head, I am. So, so part of what kinesthetic awareness training is that making sure that where you think you are is where you actually are. Because I think a lot of technique deficits come with, athletes have a wrong body map, right? They think they're doing this, they're actually doing this, and it doesn't meet, right?
Yep.
I'm going to show my age here. I know I might have gave the mall analogy, but you used to go to the mall before you had a cell phone, and there would have a map, and there'd be a little arrow that said, you are here. And you say, how do I get to the food court? And then you'd trace and look, and then you'd look down the hall and be like, okay, I'm going to go that way, right? If there wasn't an arrow there, you would have no idea where you are. You'd have to look around to see where are the stores and kind of calibrate, say, I'm facing this way. And that's what the brain does naturally. That's a part of proprioception, which is knowing where you are in time and space. It's really important for the brain to have an accurate body model where they are, because if you didn't, you'd get eaten by the lion, right? Like there's no clumsy deer running around, right? The brain wants to have an accurate model. It's a deep brain structure function, cerebellar function, that it wants to know where it is in time and space, which is why, and if I'm going too far here down this hole, let me know. When you trip up a curb, there's a unique feeling that you get, like, oh, I'm instantly recalibrated, right? Sometimes groceries are everywhere. Or if you walk into a clear glass door, a sliding door, whatever, right?
Yep.
So that feeling of, oh, is this matching this? And now your defense mechanism can accurately and safely navigate your body throughout the world. That's what kinesthetic awareness is. And the training part is just a body-worn device that I have right here that happens to help athletes do that, because it learns, you put it on your body and it learns whatever you teach it, and does this periodic recalibration with vibratory feedback that mimics the natural way we navigate around the world, which is tripping up a curb. And now suddenly you know where the curb is and you know where your foot is, right? It's not rocket science or rocket surgery, as they say.
Joe, I actually thought of you this morning when I was running to the grocery store really quickly, and I told my husband, he's going to listen to this later, but I hit the curb on our car.
No, you didn't.
So I was like, oh, there's that proprioception.
That's
I didn't know where I was in time and space. So.
That's it. Well, let me ask you, was it a attention deficit?
For me, it was attention deficit because I was already thinking about what I needed to go grab in the store and before I had fully put my car in park. And so,
That's it. So let me interject a story here. Our device is now also in like workplace safety. So industrial athletes, right? And oftentimes when you have a job, it's like up there on the roof and you start climbing the ladder, but not you, but everybody rarely stays present during the climb because their brain is already on top of the roof doing the job or getting ready for the job or carrying the tools. So one of our products in Panther Tec is for industrial athletes called Safe Coach. And it trains you just the way you train your body in time and space with a racket or club or bat. It trains you with your tool. And if it's a ladder or a chainsaw or whatever, so it's that same thing of purposely paying attention to where you are in time and space.
That's really cool. I love that you call them industrial athletes too. Like I've never heard that term. And it's like, you're using the technology because like safety is something that needs to probably be coached. Like they need to have the utmost awareness of where their body is for those dangerous jobs.
Yeah. Cause you can die, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's the difference. Yeah. It's literally a difference between life or death rather than just like missing your serve or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
That's really interesting. I think what you're doing at Panther Tec with the wearable technology is really cool because like, I think back to what I was doing or the training that I was doing when I was playing volleyball in college. Like you would have to, coach would film you with an iPad. You'd be working on like your serving mechanics and I'd have to, do 5 serves and then walk over to the iPad and it's like, oh, you're doing this wrong or you're tossing the ball here or your elbows here. And it's all after the fact. You're like, well, I just went through 5 reps wrong. And now I have to go back and you're not getting that real-time feedback.
Right. And the body naturally moves around the world with real-time feedback, right? That's how it works. It's the natural feedback loop mechanism that we use 24/7, right?
Yeah. And it's like what you said earlier, of like when athletes think they're doing A, but they're actually doing B and it just doesn't line up. It's like the whole time I didn't have the awareness, like, oh, I thought my elbow was high, or I thought I was tossing the ball further out in front of me. And but it's not reality. And so not getting that feedback immediately can slow your training.
Right. Because if you're sitting in a team room looking at the film, how effective is it to try to remember how that felt? How did that feel? I don't know. It was last week, right? So there's something called the trifecta, which is what you think you're doing, what you're actually doing, and the outcome. And if you're trying to manage these 2 things to get this outcome and this one's wrong, it's like driving with a a car that doesn't respond to your steering, or using a wrong map, or
Yeah.
tripping up a curb, right? Like, this
Yes.
has to match. If this is your goal, what you think you're doing has to match what you're actually doing, or else it's happenstance of
Yeah.
if the thing happens or not.
Absolutely. I'm curious, when did your passion for science really become the next arena for you after sport? Because you said, hey, it took me 7 years to
I
get my
know.
bachelor's degree. Like, how did you, now you have a PhD and you're a founder of a company
Oh
that
God.
is founded in neuroscience. So I just want to hear a little bit more about that journey, because that is really
All
cool.
right. How did that happen? How did I get here? So actually, good story. The science bug happened in elementary school, believe it or not. And I crumpled up a piece of paper and I threw it into a trash can and I made it. And then I did another one and I missed. And I was like, why am I making some of these and missing some of these? And I'll never forget that. Like, that just, it didn't seem right to me. Right? Same body, same air, same piece of paper, whatever. And that kind of stuck in the back of my mind. Now, I either wanted to be a pro athlete or a neuroscientist or an astronaut. So those are or a Black Panther. Those are my four things I wanted to be when I was growing up. And I did get the Panther part. Look, I have a tattoo of a panther.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Anyway, so that moment kind of stuck with me. And then when I fell in love with motor skill acquisition and learning how the body learns movement, it just kind of naturally gravitated towards that experience, because it's all driven by the brain, right? The good news is about all this is that neuroplasticity allows it to be trained. And I think that, okay, confession, I have a tattoo that says neuroplasticity. Did I tell you that?
No,
Oh dear.
no.
Okay, well, confession. So that's how much of a nerd I am. So there you
I love
go. But that's how it started, elementary school. And then after my pro career, I realized, well, I'm 39, I think, is when I started to think about retiring from pro sport. I got a master's in sports science, and then the PhD in Nebraska. So yeah.
Yeah, that was the journey. I love that you said you have a tattoo of
I
neuroplasticity.
do. Oh, carve.
What is how do people make sure they're like, neuroplasticity, I feel like it's becoming a more understood or heard about word in our
Mm-hmm.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, can you just explain a little bit about what that is for listeners that might not know what that is, neuroplasticity,
Excellent point.
and how it applies to them, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Good point. Mike Studer has a wonderful article about this, and I'll pull it up and send it to you for your listeners. But it describes it's how the brain learns. And when I grew up, neuroplasticity wasn't big as a thing. Not like it was discovered, because it's always been there, but it was thought that you couldn't regenerate new nerve endings. You couldn't generate new neurons, right? So whatever neurons you had after the pruning process in your development when you were a baby, that's all you got, right? And that's why they were so like, don't drink, you're killing all your neurons, right? But now we've learned that neurogenesis, which is the growing of new nerves, is more of a thing than we even thought, than neuroscience even thought. And so think about neuroplasticity as the ability for your brain to learn. And I can give you an example that everyone can experience if you want. Okay.
Yes.
If you have friends or neighbors, I want you to ask them to borrow their car for a couple of trips. And the first time you borrow their car, assuming it's different, you're going to try to poke the key in, and you're like, oh, and you're going to have to look where the key is or where the button is. I realize there's a button.
Mhm.
And you're like, how do I adjust my seat? Right. And then you do it. And the next time it's easier. And the next time it's easier. And the third or fourth time, you don't even think about it. Then go back to your old car and you'll realize how quickly this other set of information that says, this is my old car environment, immediately picks up. It's, I know I'm a nerd, but it's the amazing adaptability of the brain. And
Yeah.
so neuroplasticity is the thing that allows you to learn and adapt to the world around you.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then if you get back in the car like 3 weeks later, it only take you 3 reps or 2 reps where your finger just knows where to go. And that's kind of the mechanism that we use CAT to train more complex things like baseball, hitting, and tennis serving, and volleyball.
Okay, yep. So it's like each time it just, yeah, it gets a little bit easier for you to know exactly what you're doing, like the ability to just, I mean, you're learning it, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah. And all you have to do is pay attention, right? Eric Anderson, nerd thing, has or sorry, Anders Ericsson. He passed away, but he was one of the founders of what's called deliberate practice, which is you probably heard the 10,000 hour rule.
yes, yeah.
It's kind of an add-on to that. There's a whole theory about that I have, but if you have some nerd listeners that want a resource, the handbook, Oxford Handbook of Expertise with Anders Ericsson.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that too.
Okay.
Yeah. So you also mentioned earlier that you retired at age 39 from playing professionally.
I,
Is
I
that
think I
and
started
coaching?
thinking about it at 39, but yeah. What am
Okay.
I going to do? Yeah.
Yeah, what was that experience like for you? So I kind of just want to know how it all kind of came together. Like you decided you were going to retire and then you decided you were going to pursue neuroscience,
I
or
know.
was that kind of in tandem?
God, I wish it was like that little fluid. And yeah, I planned the whole thing. No, it was like a cluster pluck. Um,
Yeah.
so I remember I was planning the year after I peaked. Um, and I was playing early. It was December 18th was the day. And I was playing a tournament, and the first half of the season, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I don't feel the same. Maybe I have some weird disease or mono or something, but something's not right. And I remember sitting up in bed talking to Anthony Herrera. Shout out to Anthony, Jimmy John's and movies. Um, and I was like, oh my God, I'd rather be somewhere else. And that thing, it was just like the curtain went up on what I was feeling, and I bolted straight up in bed, and I was panicked. I was like, what is this feeling? Anyway, long story. So that was my last tournament. I retired mid-season. That match, I retired, and I didn't, which is an odd thing to do. And then I watched TV for about a year, and I cried for 6 months, and I didn't know who I was. And it's not like I got injured and couldn't do it. Like, I chose this, right?
Right.
Which was really, I'm fortunate, I think, to be able to have that, right? We deal with a lot of pro baseball players in Panther Tec with the cat training and whatnot. And a lot of them were forced to leave the game because of injury.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's knees and shoulders, of course, but yeah, I feel fortunate for that. So then after I kind of crawled out of my hole, I started doing neuroscience research as a research assistant at CU Anschutz under Benzie Kluger. Shout out to Benzie Kluger. There's no way he should have given me that job. None, no way. I mean, barely graduated high school and had probably a 2 point nothing in bachelor's. But I was probably like this and real passionate. And he said, at the very least, I won't have to motivate you or something like that. And he was right. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I don't know how deep you want me to get into this story, but
As deep as you want to get. I mean, Joe, I think it's amazing. Like it is a unique situation that you went through where you were like, I would rather be somewhere else. Like
Mhm.
I feel like not many athletes have
Mm.
that experience. It's kind of like a slow burn of like, is this really what I need? But it's all I've known. And you were kind of just able to be like look yourself in the mirror and say like
Mm.
this is not the direction that I want my life to go anymore, and so now I need to figure something out. And you still grieved, but you faced it head on, which I think is interesting that not many athletes are really equipped to do in the moment.
That's an excellent point. Yeah. Yeah. One of the other pros, I won't say him online, but about a year after that, she must have been feeling something similar and we weren't like real close friends. She just knew I'd retired mid-season, which is a weird thing, and called me, and we had a brief chat about what it was like. And I was like, yeah, this is not a nothing. This is a big deal if
Yeah.
that's all you've known. Especially in team sports, because at least in an individual sport, um, I had all my resources I would normally have without a team, right? But in a team sport, you stop and you immediately lose 12 of your best friends or whatever. Where I had you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
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 Like volleyball, for example.
Yeah, that your whole, yeah, you quit volleyball, your whole support system's gone immediately.
Yeah.
Maybe all your friends that you're with immediately too.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone who is going through that grieving process right now, losing their sport, or is thinking about maybe like taking their life in a different direction? Would you
Mm.
give them some advice?
Um, yeah, I can share a little example about what I did, and then maybe a little advice. After I, like the day after I retired, I couldn't watch any competing on TV. Not poker, not Price is Right, certainly not any sport, not Olympics. Like I would get nauseous. I have to turn the channel or do whatever. Um, and because I felt like part of me had failed, right? Um, but the wisdom that comes from that is we succeeded because uh, all the work we put in, of course, but there's only a certain window of time that you can be an athlete and perform at that level, right? Shout out to Brady and Harrison Ford, who's 83 and some amazing athlete, right? But generally, there's a finite amount of time, and if you, no matter what stage you are, put your 100% effort in that wonderful window that we have to be able to train and compete and experience movement in a body that you only get once, right? Um,
Hmm.
that's the success. So whether you were 6 in the world or 5 or best in the club or you beat the one guy you've been trying to beat at, whatever it is that it, and this is the cheesy part, like it's not the journey. It really is experiencing what your body can do in the present and pushing yourself and seeing what you can do. And it doesn't matter if you do it or not. It doesn't matter. It's the doing it is the reward.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. It's hard to, when you're moving through that period of your life and you're going through that grieving period. I remember something similar. Like I wasn't able to watch volleyball when I was done. It took me a while to like be excited about
Mhm.
watching college volleyball on TV.
Yeah.
So, but it's like once you get through it, it's like that was such a worthwhile experience. I'm so glad I did that. It made me who I am. But
Mm-hmm.
it is a period where you have to give yourself that grace for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
That's a good word. Give yourself that grace. Kind of, you got to think like this experience that I'm having is on loan, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm going to have a 23-year-old body forever, right? It's not. And nobody has that, right? So I don't know, maybe that's a way to think of it. Like balls out while you can, and then take that same passion for competing or exceeding or overachieving, whatever it might be, um, and look and see what else is out there. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah. Learning how to take it into the next arena, I think is very,
Yeah,
very important.
yeah.
And speaking of your next arena, Panther Tec, I want to really get, I know we've talked a little
Mm.
bit about it, but it's just really amazing what you're doing. So actually, where did you get the idea to come up with Panther Tec? And I have a feeling the name maybe is uh, because you wanted to be, you have your Panther tattoo. Talk a little bit about the journey of
Yeah,
creating
yeah.
Panther
So
Tec.
I remember I was we were camping with my wife. I was in school in Nebraska, and she was living in Denver until I graduated. And every other weekend we'd meet at Lake McConaughey in middle Nebraska. And I was talking about this idea, and we were trying to come up with names. And anyway, long story. Panther stands for Principles of Athletics and Neuroscience Toward Human Expertise plus Technology. So Panther Tech. And because I wanted to be a Panther as a little kid, it seemed to fit. Now
Absolutely.
marketing people are like, yeah, we don't really know what your company does. I'm like, I know, but it's kind of a cool name. So anyway, um, so how did I come up with the idea? This was back at Denver Athletic Club, I think I don't know, 15 years ago. And the athletes that would come in and train with me, and we'd have to relearn the next, unlearn what they'd been doing, and until we get back their mechanics that they had kind of that we had polished before they left. I wish there was a way to save it, to save the sensation of this movement creates, or this position makes an optimal movement pattern. So if there was a way to artificially save it, artificial proprioception, and that's where I came up with the idea that when you train someone, and you've been coached and you coach as well, you direct their attention to this shoulder or drop the shoulder, or hey, over rotate or under rotate, or use all the words and metaphors that we use to teach someone to get in the position that leads to optimal movement. But they do a pretty poor job of describing the moment. Like when you hit you were probably a hitter, right? Volleyball.
I was a libero, actually.
Oh, you are? Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So you kind of run the show, right? So when you're, that's a setter, right?
No, I'm only back row.
Oh, only back row. Okay, got it.
Alternate jersey, only a defender. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So when you exactly knew where to go to defend the thing, like that was your zone, right? Yep. I forgot where I was going. Anyway, doesn't matter. So there's technique for that. You can't describe the feeling of diving to get it. It just feel when you're in the zone and you're moving optimally, there's a feeling, and words and pictures and metaphors don't describe it. So you can't say, hey, Jordan, make your body do this. See this picture? Like it just doesn't work. So we wanted a translator from the coach's words to how it felt. And that's where you put the cat on the body at different parts, and it learns the position that you teach it by pressing a button on the app, and then gives feedback that responds to the athlete's movement. So for example, basketball, if you want a vertical forearm, and a lot of kids have chicken wing out because they're either strong enough, they don't realize that they don't need to push sideways, they can use their legs, or they're not using their lower half. Essentially, you teach the cat the technique, and then the cat teaches the technique back to the kid.
Okay, and the cat is the sensor that goes on their body.
Yes, it's a device. It looks like that.
There it is.
So it's got the little cat on there, and it'll light up here in a minute. So it's short term, high focus, low reps to artificially borrow this proprioception so that you can get the feel of it and then go practice. That's the idea.
So coaches can train what they're trying to teach the athlete into the app, like you said. Mm-hmm. And if their mechanics are what they're trying to dissuade, then mm-hmm. it's going to tell them, hey, you're not doing this properly, or it's going to buzz. Mm-hmm. That is what it does.
Yeah. Or trains you the right way. So just today we had a bat drop. A lot of kids, when they have to step, their bat drops, and then they're late because they don't get it back up. So we captured the optimal bat position. And when they take their step, if it beeps, that means they dropped their hands. Oh, I didn't realize. And there's so many things you don't realize because you have to step and look at the ball, and your coach is there, and your mom is there, and your teammates will get it. So there's all these pressures, right? So we just kind of have a little bit of support for some key biomechanical techniques that train the athlete to be more kinesthetically aware.
Yeah. Gives you that immediate feedback that you need in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And the key is intermittent use. So you don't want to wear it all the time. And I hate to call it a wearable too, because that implies you put it on and something happens later. But we're really just about the space between the athlete and the coach, the clinician and the patient, the physical therapist, or the crew chief and the worker. So we're right there where learning happens. That's what we do.
And then it's off. Like you're working on that specific skill or for a short period of time, and then it's off. And they're actually taking in what they learned.
Yeah. So we call it, you train out of context. So we train in the living room or the hallway or wherever else where you're not. You ever teach baseball to a T-ball athlete, right? Like you can barely put the ball on the tee and you have to back away because they just want to swing.
It was just a swing.
They just want to swing, right? So same thing, if you're in your context of your sport, if you're facing a basket, your brain thinks, I'm going to try to make the basket. But no. Turn around, face the other way. We want to have some internal awareness of where your body is. So a lot of the training, most of CAT training happens outside the context of the sport. Then you slowly layer in the different elements, and then you take it off and just immerse yourself, and the magic of neuroplasticity stays. What you're learning stays.
That is interesting. Like you're taking yourself out of the environment so that you could really go internal and not focus on like the external things that might be distracting you from actually learning.
Yes.
Yeah. I can see how that would be super beneficial. It's like when, like, I just, again, relating it back to my volleyball experience, like this would have been really helpful for like when they would have us go in the hallway with a tennis ball and you're just focusing on getting your elbow high and like snapping and throwing the ball down towards a wall. So like you're getting out of the environment of the gym, away from the net, and it's just about the body mechanics, but
Right.
you're getting
Right.
immediate feedback.
Right. And the brain doesn't know, at least the premotor brain doesn't know if you're doing it in a game or not, but it still has to be able to recognize it and control it and do it. And then good
Right.
coaches will layer in the different levels of complexity and decision making and perception action coupling that you need when you're actually competing.
Yeah. It's very cool technology, and I see this being so beneficial on a wide scale for so many different types of athletes. What are you most excited about for the future of Panther Tech, and do you see it kind of growing into
Oh,
different
oh
spaces?
man. So many things. One thing when I was competing is it's one thing to hit a little ball in a room and try to be the best you can be. And it's another thing to like help somebody walk after a stroke, right? Or a disabled kid who can't sit up straight in a wheelchair, right? So there's a few different verticals in with Panther Tec. One of them is clinical rehab. And that one's been maybe the most broad world impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a company called Shattuck QLI in Omaha, Nebraska, who's been helping us pilot some of these rehab techniques. So that's really helpful. There's a couple of units in Ukraine for the soldiers that have lost their limbs. A guy named
Oh, wow.
Scott Fox has a couple of them over there, and he's trying to work with some of the hospitals there. Um, just because their infrastructure is a wreck, and so if you can help someone be able to walk across the room and pick up their kid, that
Yeah.
right. So there's that. Then on the more selfish side is the sport thing is my whole life was competing in sport, and if you can help someone get better at that, right, learn movement more efficiently and be a more adaptable athlete, that's maybe the least altruistic of it, but it sure is fun to watch someone achieve their goals. Maybe that's the key.
100%. I didn't even know before this conversation, Joe, that you are helping improve lives in so many arenas outside of sport as well. I think that's really cool that the future of your company has so many areas to excel and impact people. I'm excited to see how it continues to grow. I mean, just the rehab perspective, or improving lives
Mm-hmm.
in places where people have been impacted by war. Like it's just
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
it really is like you're doing something greater than, I don't want to say just sport, because sport is really important.
That's my sentiment.
Yes, but it's like it touches so many different areas too.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, we're a tiny startup. If any of your listeners have any interest in helping pursue those avenues, either in the rehab or the nonprofit space, reach out. We've got to make the thing go before we can start expanding in those other areas that are frankly, like you said, meaningful in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Joe, I love what you're doing. This has been a really fun episode. I just have one final question, and hopefully it's not too redundant from the one I just asked you,
Okay.
but for the namesake of the show,
Okay.
Changing the Game, always end with the question, what does changing the game mean to you, whether it's in this chapter of your life, your career, or sport?
Oh, see, when you alluded to that question, I was going to ask it back to you.
Oh,
Yeah, right? Because
okay.
you yeah, I'm going to do that first and then I'm going to answer. So you answer first.
Okay. That's such a great question, and no one's ever asked me this back, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I have like the most polished answer, but
Right.
I guess changing the game for me is, I have the privilege to host the show and talk to so many amazing women who have done so many cool things and have a story to share. I think changing the game for me is definitely all about uplifting other people so that they can share their stories. Like the reason I have this show is to shine a light on other people's
Mm-hmm.
stories and experience, because I do believe you can learn from everyone. And I think it's important to get everyone's experience and their story out into the world.
Yeah.
So that helps me change the game, I guess.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. I figured that's what it was, just from having knowing you the short time. It would be something along those lines. My answer would be something similar that I'm actually shamelessly stole from Brandy Carlisle. And she said, when you find a door open for you and you go through it, hold it open for the people behind you. And if that's donating cats to hospitals or, anything that talking to, when I was an athlete, I used to do like little speeches to high schools and stuff, but helping a little old lady cross the street. I mean, any of those things, right? Like there's some camaraderie, and which is why I love what you're doing. And I love what Launch Break is doing, which is how we met. Shout out to
Yes.
Launch Break.
Shout out Launch Break for sure.
Is to what they're doing is that there's this whole community of people, and it's not like we have to make them. They're out there. We're just bringing them together. So changing the game, you could replace changing a life with that.
Yes. Absolutely. Changing a life, leaving it better than you found it, holding the door open for the next person.
Yes.
Because if there's one thing that I've learned just from all of these conversations, I think there's room for everyone in whatever you want to excel in. And so I don't like looking like we're all competitive people, but I don't think that we need to be competitive with one another. There's room for us to help each other, no matter what you want. Yes.
It's a big world.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Joe, it's been awesome chatting with you. I love what you're doing. I'm so excited for our listeners to hear this episode. Where can they find you or connect with you outside of the episode?
Wonderful. Okay. And thank you so much again. I'm having the best time. I don't want to go back to work after this. The website is panthertec.net. So it's panthertec.net. And you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Joe Shattuck, Shattuck. And we're on the website, Google or TikTok and Facebook and my face and all the things.
Amazing. Yes. So everyone, Panther Tec, no H, tec.net. Find Dr. Joe there. Check out the amazing things Panther Tec is doing. I appreciate all of the listeners' time. Thank you for being here. And Joe, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you so much I'm so grateful. This makes my whole month.
I'm so happy. And I'll be keeping up with what you're doing. So
awesome. Thank you so much again.